this time we are wrapping up Space Dandy from Studio Bones, and it is on Funimation.com, Hulu.com, and you can see it on Cartoon Network.
And this is the second season, sort of, or whatever. Like, it wasn't totally clear, was it just taking a break, or is it...
The second half of Space Dandy.
There we go. I feel like I enjoyed the second half more than I did the first half, even though it seems like, just from the lack of conversation about it, that most people felt the opposite. I'm not sure.
I just wonder how much there was this kind of carnival-esque feeling to the first one. It died down, and people kind of knew what to expect past that point. But yeah, I do feel like there were a lot of strong episodes. There was some stinkers, but that was the same with the first season as well. And, people will argue which ones are the heroes and which ones are the villains of the season. But, it's very anthology. Every episode really felt like a combination of the director and the animation director and the writer for that episode. Depending on who was combined in those three things really determined how that episode felt.
But at the same time, most of the episodes felt in tune with each other. I think there were a couple of weird ones. Like, the second to last one, I was really disappointed in and found mostly insanely boring, which is this one, in the courtroom, which was just like people talking for 30 minutes.
We mentioned this last night, but I really feel like it was supposed to be a parody of something that we were not getting. Like, if you knew the movie that it was making fun of, you would have been like, ah, ha, 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 a little more. If it is doing that, it plays it so straight that the humor is lost. And basically, you were pretty much, to only a slight exaggeration, doing what that thing did.
Maybe they were trying to bore us so much so that the ending would be the most bombastic, crazy, amazing thing you saw. Because they just pulled out all the stops. We finally get the confrontation between the Google Empire, and I don't care that they're not called the Google Empire. In my mind, they are. They finally catch up with Dandy. We get to see some of that.
Oh, we get the return of Johnny.
Just an amazing ending, full of everything from, every episode. Also, I would totally watch a Honey Scarlet team-up spin-off series, because Dirty Pair is, already kind of that already, but they would just be amazing. Dandy gets to have his noble moment despite the fact the Haruhi of that universe, and he's powered by his love of boobies. This is it had it all.
And there were so many sci-fi from anywhere in the world references in that thing, because they referenced everything from Yamato and Gundam to Star Wars and Star Trek and everything in between.
The last episode just felt like they were having such a damn good time. And that's how it ended up making me feel. Even if I only understood half of it, I was like, whatever, it doesn't matter. And maybe that's kind of the feeling that I felt ramped up in the second season, or the second part, whatever, that I really liked, because I don't know, maybe people didn't like the more references, but there was the rock and roll episode where they form a band, amazing. There's the musical episode, amazing. My favorite episode of the season was easily the 80s rom-com.
I thought you were going to ask which was your favorites.
Yeah, are there other ones that stood out to you?
I really liked the rom-com. I really liked the musical episode. I really liked the first episode of the season with the multi-dimensional dandies. That was a great way to reintroduce the series and basically confirm a lot of the theories that people had, and basically go, all right, look, we know you all know the secret of Space Dandy, so we're just going to confirm it and then get back to having fun. So then when the full ramifications are explained at the end, you don't feel like you're on the hook. You can just enjoy these middle episodes. But it was still done in a really fun way. It didn't feel like, all right, let's just get this over with so you don't complain for the rest of the season.
And I feel like we got to see more Scarlet in the second half. We got to see more Honey, both characters that I like. Huge surprises, both of them. You know, it had everything. I was so pleased every time I watched it.
But I also really like the kind of melancholy feel of that one episode where he's kind of on like the planet of the dead. I thought that was a standout one as well.
And that was, I felt like, one of the ones that didn't quite... I mean, I don't think that it was a bad episode, and I totally see what you're saying about it, Al, but I did feel like it kind of felt out of line with everything.
Mm.
Like, if I was taking it as a whole. As an individual, I think that it was a very interesting episode. But maybe that's the point. Maybe that's the idea, you know, is that it's supposed to be kind of that one that's supposed to make you feel a little bit different about the series. Emotionally or thematically, there's not like a ton to say about Space Dandy, but it feels like a unique project, and I'm really glad they did it, and they hint that, you know, hey, there could always be more, but I liked that it brought together different directors, different character designers, writers, and really said, hey, just have fun with this episode.
But I felt like it didn't feel just like a mishmash of different things. Like you said, one of the main benefits of how they set up the story and how they set up Dandy and the crew was that it felt like a unified show most of the time. And there was some outliers that still kind of worked with the overall themes. But most of the time, it really did feel like the adventures of the dandiest man in space. Even though, like, every episode really gave the team who worked on it this chance to show, like, what they can do and really kind of express themselves in that mold. In a way that I really only feel you see with something like Lupin. Even with Lupin, it took a long time to get to that point.
And I just feel like we don't really see a lot of things that have all this different input, except in sometimes you see kind of artsy movie anthologies, you know, that get that treatment. But to have it on TV and to sort of make it appealing to everybody and not that I think that they're pretentious, but you know what I mean? Just like, it's not an artsy, it doesn't feel artsy, it feels like a little bit lower class, but at the same time, I feel as though everybody had a good time working on it, and I had a good time watching it.
There was no huge barrier to entry, and basically it welcomed everybody into the tent and to have fun. I did notice one thing, now that I think about it. I also did feel like one of the major complaints people had about the first season was there was a little too much boobies and, like, low humor and, like, low-hanging fruit humor. Whereas definitely they did that every once in a while. I felt like they definitely dialed it back. Just enough so you knew that Dandy was still the Dandy from the first season. But I felt like they put their hat and they rested their hat more often on other parts of the show for humor in the second half. Plus, once again, where else are you going to get a reference to Chuck Norris's Karate Commandos in any other anime?
I guess I would also say, didn't you feel like the second season had maybe more directors or more people showing some of that American love that we were talking about with Tokyo ESP, you know, showing a little bit more, like, a little more American references. Like, I mean, that whole 80s romance episode is, like, taken directly. I mean, as someone who watched a lot of those 80s romances that they're referencing, like, that's what it felt like. I mean, I'm not saying that there were never Japanese movies like that. Maybe there were. I have no idea. But it perfectly, like, Dandy's pleated white pants.
Plus, they make a lot of American references in that thing. So I'm thinking they were borrowing much more from the 80s. Plus, they even have, like, the Better Off Dead ski jokes, which is definitely, like, a seminal 80s comedy thing.
So I guess I feel like they were showing a little more American reference love, and I wonder if, you know, I mean, it aired at the same time here on television as it did in Japan, and I don't know if, you know, that was in any way a factor, but, like, I definitely felt it was, like, ramped up a little bit in seconds.
Oh, and I just wanted to mention, Dandy is so multi-dimensional, as we learn, that he actually appeared in Tokyo ESP.
That guy, I have to believe that guy existed in the manga, and so it's just a weird coincidence. But I don't know that for sure. So we're just gonna say that, he was completely invented and he just crossed over.
Once again, the most important thing to tell people is that you're not going to enjoy every Space Dandy episode, and you're probably going to debate with your friends who watch it which episodes are the good ones and which ones are the bad ones. But more often than not, you're going to enjoy more of them than you're going to dislike, and each one of them just feels so different that it's really just worth trying out, like the full buffet that they offer you. All right, see you guys next time.